Good morning, everyone. This morning, we're going to read a speech from Dr. King. Shout out to Martin Luther King Day. I hope everyone enjoys the holiday. We're going to go ahead and read the I Have a Dream speech. And additionally, we're going to go over 5 learning lessons from MLK, from the area, the time area, and how can we apply it still today. Shout out to just that area and so much pain and so much work that went into it to really make America a much better country today than it was in the 60s. I can safely say that. Cheers to that, friends. Let's get right into it. Enjoy the episode. Good morning, everyone. Let me go ahead and get my audio nice and ready. Welcome to the show. We're going to be reading through the I Have a Dream speech. Maybe you haven't in a while, but I will be go ahead and reading through it, and it's going to be a fun time. So let's go ahead and get right into it. It's a bit longer. We'll start with this, and then we'll go ahead and get to the lessons. So need a little drink of water. I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light of hope to millions of Black people who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Black man is still not free. 100 years later, Black people still sadly crippled by manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, Blacks still live on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, Black still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of a republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. The note was a promise that all men, yes, Black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given Black people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Black Bank of Injustice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off, or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer, Black people legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who Blacks needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. And there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until Black people are granted their citizen rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness or hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Black community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and that they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as Blacks are the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We cannot be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as Blacks' basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We shall never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating "for whites only." We cannot be satisfied as long as Blacks in Mississippi cannot vote, and Blacks in New York believe he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down the waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I'm not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells, and some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow the situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair, I say to you today, my friends. And so, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall be seen together. This is our hope, and this is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from the Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews, Protestants, and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing the words of the Black spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. That's a really good speech. I absolutely love that speech. So shout out to Dr. Martin Luther King. If you haven't read that speech in a long time, I highly going back. If you want to practice your speaking skills, I really like this idea of just going over old speeches that were really good and practicing them out. But it always gives me so much more compassion and energy towards the hardships of our past and seeing like the true opportunities that are presented today. But again, shout out to Martin Luther King. I wanted to start with that. And then what are some 5 key takeaway lessons that we can take from Martin Luther King? Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's knock out our 5 lessons from Dr. King. So we're going to knock these out. All right, first takeaway from Martin Luther King that I really like that still apply today: courage in the face of adversity. Maybe this is a good word to think about, maybe to journal about a little bit today. What does courage mean to you? Does it mean doing what you're supposed to? Does it mean working out? Does it mean reading the books that you've been wanting to do? What is the adversity that you're facing? How can you be courageous? Is there someone in your family or your sphere that needs your help, that just needs you to listen to them a little bit, say they're going through a tough time? What is courage to you? And how can you, we could talk all day about the courage that Martin Luther King was able to bring to the table. He had so many learning lessons from Gandhi and what he was able to do just through our next principle, which we want to get into. So we want to be courageous, right, folks? Good morning. Good morning. Then we want to use love, tolerance, and peace. Love, tolerance, and peace. This is a good little mantra that we need to have on here. Love, tolerance, if I can spell, that's an L. Tolerance and peace. How can you show up today with love, tolerance, and peace? Maybe you're talking to a coworker, maybe you're talking to a family member or whoever, and you need to show up and they're blue in the face, they're yelling at you, they're being irrational. And then how can we still continue to kill them with kindness? Continue to present ourselves in a manner that is not going to escalate or make it worse. In the speech, he talks about several times how, is it fair? No. But acting with violence and arguing or coming back, so many of us, I can think of me in the past doing this, but someone would be saying something, I'm trying to think of something really clever to come back and give them a real zinger. Granted, during MLK time and civil rights, with all that stuff going on, it was a lot more intense. So it makes it a lot more real. And that's why we still use those stories today. But using these principles haven't changed. Using love, tolerance, and peace. Tolerance is the one I really want to focus on. I think most people get the whole peace and we get the love. But I think a form of peace and love is to be resilient, is to be tolerant of the environment around us. And that leads us right into the next one. So we have tolerance for today. to the dream of a better future. There's nothing wrong with being a dreamer. We just want to make sure that we're acting in alignment that's going to get us closer. It's okay to live within our dreams. Our imaginations are as powerful as our reality. It's really just perspective, and we can lay it out there. And I think being a dreamer of, say, if you're in a tougher state, say I'm at a spot in my businesses where I want to see a lot of growth and I want to get better and I want to help a lot more people, and I can visualize it, I can fantasize, and I can dream about it as I'm continuing to work forward to it. I'm okay feeling today and finding peace with today. I'm feeling peace with what I have, and I'm very content. But there's still nothing wrong with dreaming big and giving yourself a real direction, a real roadmap of where you want to go. And for our coaching, we call it creating a vivid vision. But being a dreamer and being able to see it, I think, just helps us get that much closer to it, increases our chances. Next up, number 4 from Dr. King was education. What are you going to learn today? What are you going to learn today? Are you going to read an article? Are you going to take a class? Are you going to talk to somebody who you look up to, like a coach or a mentor, somebody? What are you going to learn today? So Dr. King was big on education. So we want to make sure that we're educating ourselves. People act unjustly, usually because of ignorance and environment and a whole bunch of other bull crap. And we've seen that in time and time again in history, whether you want to go down like thousands of years between like Egyptians and Romans to just even recently between blacks and whites in the 60s. And a lack of education causes conflict. A lack of education causes conflict, not only in our minds, but like in our communities and when we're fighting people over just a bunch of stuff, stupid stuff. So educating ourselves, I believe, is a ticket, a great ticket. I mean, no one can take this away from you. The government come get your money. They'll take it. Tax time sucks for me. I hate giving them a bunch of money, but granted, it goes to a good cause. It goes to building skills. Anyway, that's a talk for another day. Either way, but they can't take your education. They can't take what you've learned. Nobody can. Whether you get a degree or you just get experience in life, remember that nobody can take your education from you. And that's why it needs to be compounded and grown every single day, because it's always with you. Education is always with you. And that's why it came in at number 4 of our top 5 learning lessons from Dr. King. The last one I really like that I want to talk about is community engagement, getting involved with the community. How do you want to, we have a section in our coaching called Giving Back at 1pop.com where you can go check that out. But we want to be able to have a game plan for how we're going to give back. Are you going to join an association? Are you going to go clean up at an animal shelter? Are you going to go just help your family like function? Like, are you going to cook your family food? Or I think there's so many. Are you going to go cook strangers food? You can go work at a food bank. I think there's so many ways that we can get involved in the community. And I think this can really stop a lot of the hate and the oppression of like maybe other people when we're able to see that we're all here. We're all trying to get better. Who's not trying to make money? Who's not trying to like improve the quality of your life? Who's not trying to have solid relationships? Think health, wealth, and relationships. And we're all just trying to get them better. And everyone's at different stages and chapters. When I first started getting better at things and I first started reading more books and I first started investing and I first started then I would like be judgmental towards other people who weren't quite at that stage. Everyone's at a different stage. And I could see where I was tripped up. And I can also see like where I'm very lucky and I'm very healthy in a lot of ways that just other people aren't. So removing the judgment, understanding we're all just trying to be better versions of ourselves. It's just unfortunately some people are stuck in a painful state or a darker chapter. And I think community can really help humanize each other and bring us closer together. But these were the 5 the biggest takeaways that I got from Dr. King that I believe we can still apply today. So kind of just run through them real quick. So these were the 5 lessons from Dr. King. First one is courage, being more courageous. What can you do today to be what is one courageous act that you can take today? Love, tolerance, and peace. Applying those principles, thinking about them, embodying them. Like, what can you tolerate today that is through the love and peace of the people that you love and care about most? being a dreamer, let's visualize where we're going forward and have a better vivid vision. Next is educating ourselves. What are you going to learn today? And additionally, community. How can you get involved within the community to make it a happier and healthier place? All right, folks, that's all I have for today. That was the I Have a Dream speech from Dr. Martin Luther King. These were 5 learning lessons from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I had a fun time reading it. Hopefully, it was a good refresher for you guys as much as it was for me. And cheers to that, folks. I'll be back here live 8 a.m. tomorrow morning with another episode of the Talk Terror Morning Show, January 16th, 8 a.m. I was a little late to the party today. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for just stopping by. I was a little late to the party because I had messed up a couple parts and I was getting some things right, but it's Monday and it's like below 20 outside. You know, give me a break. We're all human. When we mess up, let's not beat ourselves up so bad, right? Happens. Totally. But cheers to that, friends. I got to bounce. I got a bunch of stuff to do today, a bunch of fun stuff. We're going to be selling. We're going to be making social media content. Can't wait. We're excited about it. Good perspective on it. You guys have an incredible, incredible day as well. Go ahead and check out the episode if you really want to listen to the speech again, or if you just want to go over the top learning lessons from MLK. Cheers to that, friends. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning, bright and early, where we'll be going over fear. We'll be talking about fear tomorrow and how it plays a role in our ability to take action and not take action. So if you want to learn more about your fears and how you can overcome them, come over to our show tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Cheers, friends. In case you need to hear it, I love you. You're a badass. You got this. Have an incredible, incredible day. Enjoy it. Stay warm if you're in the Midwest. It is cold as hell here. Cold as hell. But you guys have an incredible day. Cheers, friends. Have a good one. Peace.